I moved to the area in 1954 as a 14-year-old from Beckley, West Virginia. My father worked for then Altman Equipment Company in the radio television service business, and I would come into town when I was going to school, and in the evenings would stay in town and ride home with him on because I was playing ball. Mm-hmm. And I got to know a lot about the town back then. A lot of the of us played ball, even late in the evenings, in behind what was Ray Payne's service station, which is now the Orange County Review office. And then after high school, and I remember a lot about the merchants. I worked as a teenager at Leggett's and at May Rudisill's in their men's clothing departments. And then, of course, after graduation from high school, I went away to technical school, electronics. Came back, was the engineer at the radio station while working with my father and mother in their television repair service business. And got married. And I really did a lot of radio work then because my wife was a senior in pharmacy school and had a year to go. So she went back to Richmond to what was then MCV Pharmacy. And her father was so happy I married her. He said, now you get to support her. So I had to get a second job. That's when I went to work in the evenings at WJMA doing some DJ work along with some engineering down there. Then Mr. Harry Kite, the owner of Crafton and Sparks clothing store. And I forget exactly what year this was, maybe 64. I was in there, he was going out of business. They were having this big going out of business sale. And I walked in and I shopped there a lot. And I said, I'm sorry to see you going out of business, Mr. Kite. And he said, well, why don't you just buy the place? And I said, Mr. Kite, you know I work for my father. I have no money. Just got married and I can't afford. Come on by my house tonight. Let's talk about it. Went home and told my wife, I said, we just bought a clothing store. Didn't want any money down, just paid me so much a month. And all of a sudden I was in the clothing business, and that lasted for many good years. And then small towns started dying down retail-wise. This town used to have 3 department stores. There were like 2 or 3 ladies' shops. Crafton and Sparks had been there since 1907. But a lot of the customer base at Crafton Sparks had been the Woodbury Forest boys. And they changed headmasters and dress code loosened up a lot. And we had bought a lot of clothes for the Woodbury boys for that fall when they came back. And they came back not dressed up, and really affected the business. And at the same time, people figured out they could drive their car more than 20,000 miles before it was worn out. And they started going to out of town to shopping malls that were popping up, and that became a popular thing. And I think that was when small towns really started going downhill with their retail operations, was during that period of time. Mm-hmm. I know we were on the front end of it and had to get out and go find something else to do in life, which I traveled for 40 years after that, before I just recently retired. Mm-hmm. Great place to grow up, great place to raise children. Our daughters both live here now, and they cherish their childhoods. My wife was a pharmacist at Ricketts Drugstore, and both girls will talk about going to Crafton and Sparks and then going across the street to Ricketts to see their mother and get something to eat and what have you. And it was a good time and a great place to raise children.
Got any specific childhood memories that you'd like to share with us? Pranks? Mischievousness?
Oh yeah, there's a few. Got hooked up with the wrong crowd one night on a Halloween. A guy named Phil Hickerson, who was a little bit older than me, and a couple of the boys, one of them had a convertible. And they had these BB guns, and they said, let's go shoot out some street lights. And they did. I happened to be in the car with him. I didn't shoot any, but I was in the car with him. Chief John Baldwin caught us and gave us quite a lecture. I remember that. And I was a little younger than they were, and he said, "What are you doing in this car with these old guys?" And that, I guess, one of the worst things we did in high school. Mrs. Rouse was a history teacher, and she was hard, and some of the boys were having a hard time in that history class. And matter of fact, three out of the four of us are gone now. I could talk about them since they're gone, but I won't. But one night we went out, caught a raccoon, and put it inside our screen door and rang the doorbell. That was probably the worst thing I ever did involved in. But a lot of people will remember Mrs. Rouse, especially some of the guys that struggled with her, and there are still a few around. She was a hard teacher, and if she didn't like you, it was even harder. So, I remember a little 9-inch maybe screen like this, living in West Virginia. The channels didn't click. They had a dial like the old radios had, and you would tune it in. And we used to watch WZAJ, I think, out of Huntington, West Virginia. And back in those days, people in West Virginia, down in valleys and what have you, I used to work with my father, and we would run antennas to the top of the mountain and a wire all the way down a cable. And there was no cable. It was two wires with a little plastic thing between them to keep them separated. And running for 1,000 feet so people could watch television. So he was in on the cutting edge. He wanted me to be in that business, and so after high school, I decided I would do it and went to school up in Baltimore and became a licensed. There I learned enough to become a licensed engineer, and at least I passed the test to become an engineer in a radio television station. And worked for Arch Harrison right after Arch bought the station here. Actually, I'd worked in high school in the evenings when it was out at DeVivi's. Had done some DJ work. And when I left, Bill Little replaced me. And I went away to school. Bill was getting out of the Army and came back, or either getting out of the Army or came back from Colby College. I think he'd finished college and came to Orange. His parents were living here.
Now, did you operate Crafton and Sparks until it closed?
I did. And
then what did you do after that?
For 14 years, I sold school furniture and equipment. I was looking for something to do, and I went to lunch not lunch, but for some coffee between Sunday school and church. And Renfro Manning was the superintendent of schools, and we were friendly. And I said, Renfro, I need to find something to do. I got to get out of town to make some good money. I'm going to have 2 kids in college, and I just need to do better than I'm doing, or probably can do here. And I think I could sell. And I've been thinking about what would be good. That's always good to sell. And I came up with schools and food and churches. And if you hear of anybody that's looking for a salesperson in school furniture or equipment or food or what have you. And about 2 weeks later, he called me now. Renfro has this Kentucky twang. He called me and said, "Hey, Bale, I hit 2 out of 3 for you." And I'd forgotten the conversation. And I said, Renfro, what are you talking about? He said, I got a man here in my office who sells school furniture and church furniture. You would be perfect for him. And the gentleman came to the store. We talked, and he said, "How soon can you start?" And I said, "I don't know. I got to get out of the clothing business." And fortunately, my brother-in-law was in business with us, and he had a store in Culpeper. So we worked out a deal where I sold my half over to him, and I went on the road selling school furniture and equipment, where I learned a lot about bleachers and public seating, auditorium fixed seating. Part of my territory was Northern Virginia, and they were building high schools, Stafford, Fairfax, Prince William, Loudoun counties. They were building high schools every year. And I was very involved in all that expansion. And that's where I learned all about the seating business, which I've now been in for the last 30-some years.
Okay, so since then, you continued to do that, you said, for 14 years?
I think it was 14 years.
And after that?
1988, I went to work for a gentleman out of Richmond, Ashland area, who rented bleachers. I'd never thought about renting bleachers. Didn't even know about that business. Had watched the Masters Golf Tournament and saw that there was seating there, but I never thought about it. And when I went to work for this fellow, he was working in the golf industry, renting camera platforms to NBC and ESPN at the time, and wanted to get into bleachers. So I saw the potential in it and went over there after the school furniture business, and we took a small mom and pop company to a very large company, one of the largest in the States, and sold it 5 years ago.
Wow.
And I was at the Masters providing the seating there as the sales representative for, I think, 27 years.
Wow.
And did a lot of other bleacher work, tent floors, tents for PGA Tour, tennis tournaments, car racing. It's been a great career, and I was prepared for it all along. Now, I got to tell you a story about how I got the job in Richmond. The school furniture business, the owner passed away, and his son took over, and about a couple of years later, we were just floundering a little bit. And about that time, the low bid came into being, we called it. The state legislature passed a procurement act where every bidder, every tax dollar had to be bid out. And before that, it had been a lot of negotiation. All of a sudden, the profit margins went from 15 to 18% to 10 and less. And the margins were too low to make it, and the business was struggling mightily. And I told the son that he should take it, I would get out and do something else. Was looking, and one night, I was up on the top of the Blue Ridge Mountains in an interim job I was doing, and I stopped and I looked up and I said, Lord, I need some help here. You lead me and I'll follow you. And prayed and thanked him, and that was a Wednesday night. On Sunday, for the first time in my life, I read the classified ads in the Richmond Times-Dispatch. And buried in the Times-Dispatch, not even under sales, not under representation or whatever, some miscellaneous thing, it said, wanted sales for grandstands, bleachers, and architectural sales. And I looked at that and I said, this is too good to be true. And it was an answer to a prayer, and he did what he said he would do, and I've tried to do what I said I would do by following.
Yeah. Now you're retired, but you're just as busy or even more busy than you were before. Tell me what's keeping you busy these days.
Well, there's a lot going on. A few years ago, by accident, I was asked to go down to high school and thank a group of graduates who had a reunion and had left $2,300 to the high school band for uniforms. And I was asked to go down by my daughter, who was the president of the Fine Arts Boosters at that time, if I would go thank those people. They were about my age. They were a couple of years behind me in school. And I said, sure, I'll go. So while I was thanking them, I said, now, if anyone else in here would like to give some money for band uniforms, be glad to meet you at the door. I got my pen if you got your checkbook. And I did. I went out to the door, and all of a sudden, a fellow by the name of Blaine Stewart and his wife, Dina, walked up, and Blaine said, you inspired me. I got my checkbook. How much was that check those other people wrote? And I told him, and he said, I'll match it. And all of a sudden, we were in the band fundraising business. I thought, that's pretty easy. I just ask and people give money. And that turned into, we ended up raising $50,000 for band uniforms that were badly needed. Our daughter, I'd asked her what money could be used for at the high school, and she said, band uniforms, your grandson's wearing a uniform that's older than him, held together with duct tape and safety pins. So by that, I got started raising some funds. Then, God bless her, Judy Carter, who was former school board chairman, at the high school, they'd developed a space for a workout room. The new principal came in and said, if our football team's going to be successful, got to have a weight room for them. So I was asked by Judy to see if we could raise some money. And she said, we need $50,000 for the equipment. One night I went to bed thinking about it, and the name Paul Sizemore jumped out at me. Just came to mind. And I said, I bet there's enough of us that played for him. We're older, we might have a little extra jingle in our pocket. If I ask, I might be able to raise that money. So I did ask a few of them. They said, yeah, we do that. So I went back to Judy. I said, if we can call it Sizemore, whatever, I can raise the money. So about 7 months later, we had $50,000 and some of the best workout equipment. It's college-level workout equipment, one of the best weight rooms. We call it the Sizemore Fitness Center. And very successful. To be able to give back and have some talent to ask and give back, I then thought, what else could I do for the schools? And the scholarships popped up. So I got to researching scholarships. Who gets scholarships? Found out there was none going to kids that go to vocational technical type education schools, which is where I'd gone. So I talked around it to a few people, went to see Sean Gregg, and Sean got all excited because he's very big. We now call it not VOTech, we call it CTE, Career Technical Education is the current verbiage for it. And we just finished up our third year of canvassing, or I call it begging on Facebook for donations. And last night at the senior night at the high school, we awarded 19 scholarships. If they renew them again in December, when they start going second semester, it'll be $80,000. In addition, we have several second and third year students. So we'll be over $100,000 in our fourth year of providing scholarships. That keeps me busy. That's worth about 25 hours a week.
And the name of that foundation is?
OCHS, Alumni and Friends Foundation.
I was wondering, we've talked about the past, and you talked about how there are fewer retail businesses nowadays than there were back then, and I think we all know the reasons for that. How about the next 50, 100, 150 years? What do you see in the future for the town of Orange?
One of the reasons for the scholarships, if you're going to attract industries, you've got to have a workforce, a trained workforce, skilled workforce. So one of the reasons for the scholarships is to help get people here. And Orange County EDA, Economic Development, is one of our partners, and they contribute every year to scholarships. Mm-hmm. What do I see? I don't know if we will ever be, and I don't know if we want to be, another industry-based area. We have the industrial park, and my gut feeling is that industry needs to be in industrial parks. We need to leave this beautiful county the way it is and not mess it up with smokestacks and what have you scattered around the county, but in certain places. Clean business is what I would like to see here. Some light manufacturing. I don't want to see a data center out, a big Amazon or whatever data center out in the middle of cornfields. Mm-hmm. In our industrial parks. I do see the county growing. The engine I feel that's going to drive it is going to be the eastern part of the county, with the 4-lane highway between Culpeper and Fredericksburg, with the community college, Germano being there. And the county's working now and there is a master plan called GWAP for that whole area. Been a lot of work done by the Board of Supervisors and a lot of planners. And we're going to see the fruits of that, I think, in the next 5 to 10 years. We're going to need some businesses here to help with the tax base. If you bring in more houses and rooftops, that's going to create more services, and those tax dollars don't cover services costs. So we're going to need some more business. There's still more property in the industrial park, the Thomas Ely Industrial Park, that's available. But I like good, clean business. We need higher paying jobs. Retail will come if the people are here, but we're surrounded with a lot of retail now in Culpeper. Even Ruckersville is getting a lot of retail with big box stores. And it's close. I can go to 3 Lowe's in 30 minutes from downtown Orange. So will we ever get back to the days of department stores and clothing stores? I don't think so. The retail part of it also, I don't see it coming back strong, because you can order something online today and have it tomorrow. I just did it. I needed a laptop, and I ordered it yesterday, and it's going to be delivered at 4 o'clock today. And it's just amazing how all of retail and mail order and online has changed things.
Right. But the little town of Orange will continue to plug along? I
think so. It's still a great place to raise a family. I would recommend it to anybody. And people are moving here just for that reason. I have a neighbor just moved in, works for the Department of Interior, works at home 4 days a week and goes into Northern Virginia 1 day a week to the office. So that at-home work is going to be a bigger thing as we go with the internet. And there'll be more of it as the county continues to deliver with our CyberLink product. Broadband, fast broadband is needed for businesses today, as data is so important to run a retail or any little retail stores. Now you go into small ones, they scan and everything. That keeps their inventory, places their reorders. So our technology is moving fast.